Hey, everybody. Welcome to Buzzing About Romance. I am Becky, and joining me for this episode in my co host position is Leah. Hi, Leah.
Okay.
And I am so excited, over the moon excited, that we have special guest authors Ruthie Knox and Annie Mare. Okay, wait, and I meant to ask you this before we got started, but I was so excited you guys are here. Is it Anne or Annie?
Annie
Annie.
Mare.
Okay, Annie Mare.
So you're wrong on both parts.
I am wrong on everything.
So,
We actually often ask authors to phonetically spell things for us because we're not so great with the pronunciations. So
Yeah. Yeah.
no, it's good.
Okay. Well, welcome to the podcast. We are so excited that you are here.
We are excited to be here.
Very excited.
Yes.
So for this episode, we are welcoming our special guest, and tonight we're diving into the world of mystery, fandom, and undeniable chemistry as we celebrate the release of Big Name Fan, a TV detective novel, book 1. And this book is the latest from powerhouse writing duo Ruthie Knox and Annie Mare, also known as Mae Marvel. So if you're a regular listening to the podcast, you know that, you're my new obsession.
Well, thank you so much.
They
We're
just
very
feel
excited to be
safe
here.
because they live in like Wisconsin, and that's far away from me.
We are. We're very safe. We're moms and we're middle-aged, so we're like the people that get asked for directions.
Yes.
The safest of safe.
Also a
middle-
mom, also middle-aged, but I'm really great at stalking. Just
Okay.
kidding.
but only the legal kind.
Totally legal.
That makes it okay, right?
Yeah,
Right?
follow us all around.
I did. I followed you all over the internet. So I'm so excited to have you two here. We were talking a little bit before we started the episode. Your book that you co-wrote together under Mae Marvel was my top read of 2024.
Oh, thank you.
I am still obsessed with those two. And the cats.
And the
Yes.
cats.
And the cats. There was something marvelous and magical. But I'm really excited. Leah and I both read Big Name Fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to talk to you about this. And then
Yes.
Good.
I know that it's Annie's book, but your Cosmic Hair Multiverse.
Yes.
Cosmic Love and the Multiverse
Multiverse.
Hair Salon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am really excited for that.
Yes, we have that
Oh.
one on our Kindles too.
Oh,
Mhm.
nice.
Like
Yeah.
seriously, we went through NetGalley
NetGalley.
and requested all your books.
Oh,
That is
wow.
that
Thank
is
you.
goals.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Total goals. And I'm glad
For goals.
love is starting to trickle out there because I know it's a very new ARC. So
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
excited.
No, like honestly, Becky was like the day because we were just going through a whole bunch of stuff, and Becky like saw it, and she's like, "Okay, we're getting this one, and we're getting this one."
No, well, I was gonna say, when we first started writing again, because we had kind of early like 2010s careers in the Wild West of like all the big five publishers launched a
Mhm.
digital imprint and we're doing digital only titles. And I was like one of the first three authors at Love Swept, which was Penguin Random House's digital
Mhm.
only imprint. And but then we had kind of a hiatus, which is a whole story that I probably won't tell. Um, but when we started writing again, we were really just wanting fans. We were having such a
Mhm.
good time writing together and like really enjoying the process and like the worlds we were creating. But we were like, I want readers to read these books. And it felt pretty impossible for a little while. It just felt like hard to get back to that place again.
Mhm.
So it's a real like at least a vision fulfilled, if not a dream come true, to have readers and readers who are excited. Really
Well,
amazing.
we're excited. I mean, I'm a
Mhm.
reader and I'm in it. And it's so and we'll get into this, but I first of all, I just realized today that you were a Love Swept author. And some of our favorite authors came out of Love
Mhm.
Swept. So, like, we
Yeah.
are huge Sawyer Bennett fans, Kelly Jameson fans, that were all part of that Love Swept group. I actually do some work with Sawyer Bennett, and she's always like, I want my rights back. I'm like, I know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it.
I did get my Love Swept right
She did.
back.
She did get them back.
Yeah.
Kelly
That's
Jameson Kelly
exciting.
Jameson just got hers back too.
Mhm.
Oh, nice.
And she
Yeah.
was like, yes. And so she's
Yeah.
re-releasing. She's like, now I can have paperbacks.
Yeah, Sawyer and Kelly are wonderful writers and
Yeah.
marvelous people. So
Mhm.
Yeah, some of the best humans. Like you fall
Yeah.
in right there with all those best humans. So
Well,
thanks.
and it was fun because I saw in your bio, Becky, that you used to love getting the boxes of Harlequins at
Yeah.
home. And I started writing romance because my earliest experiences were getting the Love Swept at home. It was like five, I think there were five in a month. And you could just sign up with the postcard and then they'd send you five every month. And they were so like completely cracked. I don't think anybody has like a full understanding anymore of how absolutely off the rails some of those books were. And I loved that.
Mhm.
we just did an interview with like Maisie Yates and a couple of other
She's-
category romance authors. And they were like, we'll pitch random things like Greek mogul who is also a mob boss. And they're like, go ahead, write it. And he's going to
Yeah.
marry a princess, right? And we're all like, really?
Yes.
It's like the crazier the better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maisie Yates is the absolute reigning queen of like the whole like presents
Yeah.
like banana pants, amazing concepts. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she and Jackie Asherdine came
Yes.
on, and they're both like, yeah, we just throw these out. And I find that so fascinating because I don't know other than category that we get the opportunity to read those kinds of off the wall bonkers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think category is really like the home where, I mean, I think indie too
Right.
now.
Mhm.
But like in indie, you're kind of going out and looking for, you're on a process of discovery, right? Like you're on the road. But with category, like it would come to you and it would just be like, you didn't know what you were going to get. You
Yeah.
just, it would just be there and you would have that experience. And I think that's still true, but now we have so few lines compared to, you know, how many there used to be.
Yeah, and category writers are just God tier writers. Like to be able to do what they
Yeah.
do,
Mhm.
you know, 65,000 words is
Yep.
just amazing. So
Yeah. And that's part of what we actually did that episode in response to the person that made the TikTok that claimed that category covers and books were all written by AI. And
Oh.
those of us that, you know, I'm older, I've been reading romance since 1991 and I love it. Like, and I read the category. I had the sack of
Mhm.
categories that came to my mother. They came to my mother, not to me. But, you know, that got passed from house to house. You'd go to the hair salon and get the new sack or whatever. And I have such a love of that. And it frustrates me. Some of the newer to reader romances, like, I'm so excited they're here. But I also want them to know, like, hey, we've been doing
But,
some of
like, we
this for
want
a
them
while.
to read those books so like they can really understand like what is so amazing about it. Because I got my like romance starting category also. Like my mom got the boxes and she still has all the books.
Oh, amazing. That's like a treasure trove at this point. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is something, that's for sure.
Leah's parents' attic is like a tinderbox of category.
Yeah, because my parents, they didn't like to throw things away. And I think that every single romance book that my mother has ever read is in her attic. Well, she has a Kindle now, so that doesn't count. But like anything that was shipped to the house, like she did not get rid of. So there are probably thousands of category romances in my parents' attic.
So amazing.
I wish that they appreciated at, you know, the value that they appreciated in my
Yeah.
heart.
Same. Although I'm a library sale person, and also there's this really cool book warehouse in Dayton, Ohio, where all the books are $1.25 and but then mass markets are two for $1.25, and they have categories and just because they buy the big
Mhm.
boxes of the de-shelved books from other libraries to this warehouse, and then they sell them as used books. I go in there searching for all the category. I want the bonker titles. But the art on those covers,
Yeah,
some of
Oh,
those covers from the 80s, like,
so
they're
beautiful.
top notch.
yeah.
Yes.
And I really
Yeah.
wish we could go back to those covers. I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
everything old is new again.
Right.
So
that's the thing. It's like fashion, like the 80s were back like a couple years ago. So it's, I mean, the book cover, like it's time for those to recycle through again.
Yep. The mustache has been reclaimed.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, it's everywhere.
matter of time.
So this is very random, but this is very on par for us. My husband and I have been watching Mystic Quest on Apple TV,
okay.
which is like heavy gamer sitcom kind of.
Okay.
It's hilarious. If you know anybody in the gamer world that loves like except like World of Warcraft kind of gaming, watch this series because it's so funny. There's 4 seasons. Fourth season is happening right now. But all these characters have these bonkers mustache, like the long, like one, just like
Do any of them like have the twirl at the
no,
end?
nobody had handlebars yet that I've seen, but they're all so
Because
bonkers.
those are, I will say, like we had a friend who he had that, and like the amount of training that you have to put into your mustache, like it is dedication to get that swirl, like to stay. Like
Yeah.
it's impressive.
It's
It is.
impressive. Okay, but we're here to talk about Sapphic Love and all
Sure.
your amazing books.
Okay.
And big name fan. It comes out next Tuesday, right? It comes out on the 25th.
The 25th.
Yes.
Yes.
Next Tuesday.
Yes.
Here, I have a visual A. There she is.
So-
I love that cover, by the way. It is adorable and like understated but bright at the same time. Like I just love
Yeah.
the color choices.
Yeah. It has a good like sunset lesbian flag kind of thing going on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we were really happy with it. It was our editor, I think, Alex Sunshine, who really championed for that cover, and Becky Gill was the illustrator who she found to do it. And we love that it's like it looks a little bit like fan art, but
Mhm.
not like absolutely, it's
Yeah.
not like it's definitely trying to be fan art, but it's definitely it's in conversation with fan art, which
Yeah.
I think is really fun.
Yeah.
Well, and
Um,
it really matches the theme of the book too, like with the whole fanfic aspect to it. So I thought that was a really great
So that was something
piece.
I noticed you guys are kind of doing a little bit. Like your books tend to have a little bit of Hollywood, a little bit of that entertainment industry vibe to them. Did either of you work in as screenwriters or showrunners or anything in a nope,
In a
just
past life.
past life or just love TV? Sorry.
No, we have friends who have
Okay.
worked in the industry, and I think that both of us are obsessed with makers, like of all
Mhm.
kinds. Like it's we can't like watch anything or see a movie or read a book or go to the museum or whatever without not just thinking about, like what was made, but the
How-
whole imaginative process.
Right. Like
Yeah.
for an example, we're really into the Queen Latifah's The Equalizer right now,
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
watching our way through it. And there's a character, Harry, on that show who's like a cis het man, but he's dressed like some kind of like dreamboat of non-toxic masculinity. Like how would men dress if there was no such thing as toxic masculinity?
Mhm.
And every time we watch it, we're like, who costume designed this
Yeah,
show? Like,
that's-
who is the costume designer? I have to know, like, what vision was driving this. Because,
Uh-huh.
like, really, and it becomes more and more of his character as the seasons go on. Like, you can tell the writers start writing it into the show. Like, Harry's obsessed with Japanese denim and, like, vintage sweaters. And
Yeah.
it's pretty fun. But, yeah, we are really interested in how things get made, and in contemporary fiction, Hollywood is a good hook because everybody's, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are interested in Hollywood and celebrity, and how that creates like different kinds of constraints on relationships, on like telling the truth, on all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So
Yes, for sure. And we love Los Angeles. Like it's such a like like strange and interesting place on many levels. And I was a big Weetsy Bat verse person. And so it's kind of fun to, because obviously we're creating, like in Big Name Fan or Everyone I Kiss, like our own version of Los Angeles or Hollywood
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So how does your process as writers work? And then we'll get into the books because I have big questions about inspo on all of them. So
Okay.
so how does your writing process work? Is it like back and forth chapter to chapter? Do you each spearhead a character? Do you plot out together? I mean, you're together. So like
We're very together. That
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
Look, I
We're
just
one of
made
those
her.
couples.
no, my husband and I are too. And people are just like,
Yeah.
you guys are together a lot. I'm like, yeah, I like him. We've been like
Yeah.
26 years into this.
Yeah.
I like him for the
Yes.
most part until he annoys me. Then I
I'm
have to
gonna
take
say
a break.
sometimes.
And I know how long he has to be missing before I can declare him dead. I'm just saying, just in
Like,
case.
thank God for like, find my phone
Yeah,
tracking
you can keep an eye on them.
location. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can watch them, do an errand.
There she goes. Oh, she's coming back.
Um, yeah, so we typically how it works is we do like to work from like a very detailed synopsis. So that process is like I think it's fun. I'm not an author who hates a synopsis. Like I think it's like interesting to that's the place where you can find like the voice of the character. Like you can think of them as like live people. And so that process is like a lot of times we'll be sort of writing the synopsis out loud while we're fast drafting it, like taking notes, like transcribing the other person as we go back and forth. And usually that's a fairly involved document, like some hefty document, and then we'll kind of edit it. And then sometimes we might make a bit of like an outline that's like, this is like the first turn. This is, of the plot. This is the first emotional turn. So we kind of have a whatever. And then we jump into the very same Google Doc. Like both of us are in the Google Doc and we start drafting. Sometimes like somebody may be drafting ahead and somebody else is editing behind. Sometimes we might just be right on top of each other as we're
Trading sentences.
yes.
Like we've never done this sort of like you write this one and I write that one, or you write this part and I write that part. It's much more like Annie might write several paragraphs in a row that I'm just like editing, and then she just leaves like brackets like say something like this here and then keeps going, and then I'll fill in the part she didn't want to write,
Or it'll be like brackets, like feelings. Like something,
Yeah.
what are the feelings? Or
Yeah, I mean, I'll say like I have a lot of editing background, and like Annie has a lot of like gift at story making. And so like I do a little more of the lifting on editing, and Annie does a little more of the lifting on just like what happens. But it's not really, there's really like, usually we can't really remember who wrote what
Yeah.
by the time it's done. So I'll read some line and laugh, and I'll be like,
if you do that, I'm definitely going to claim.
Yeah, you're going to be like, that was a funny line I wrote there. I wrote that, but okay. But there did have to be like a certain amount of ego death, like for this process to evolve, right? Like there had to be like, I think especially, I would say a little bit more for me, like I came to a point where it was like, I'm not doing enough. This isn't really my writing. Like, is it my book? Like, I'm not contributing enough. Just this kind of like intense, like self-doubt monster. And then, we had to kind of have a conversation where it was like, I couldn't write this book without you, and I couldn't write this book without you. So just stop. Just like actually stop.
Because there's all of these like writing together, and there's lots of like amazing writing pairs and duos. I think that one of the things about it is that's such a gift is that you can reclaim like play and joy in writing because you can't really sink down into and invest in the self-doubt and the self-deprecating um s- self-talk and if because it's not just yours. This is like a collaborative effort. And so like it helps on so many levels. Like it helps you like realize like this is a thing you made. It'll be very successful for some readers. It won't work for other readers. Like, like
Yeah.
it helps like I think make a more healthy perspective on being a creative in publishing.
Sure.
Yeah.
But Leah, this is also a sign that you and I cannot co-write as I delete your drafts. I do. We were emailing.
Sending emails on Friday, and I had pulled like we were talking about an email that I was about to like get ready to send. And
Yeah.
I like pulled it up and I went to type and then I was copying and pasting and it disappeared. And I was like, oh my God, what did I click? And Becky's like, I deleted it.
Not like that. I was like, oh, that was a draft. I didn't know where it came from, so I just deleted it.
It like popped because we were both in the email at the same time and it popped up. She's like, what's this draft? Click.
Anyway, I'm like,
I
this
feel
is
like
our sign.
there's still some feelings there, I think.
Leah always has big feelings.
I do. I have big feelings, but it's okay. So this one, you're listed as co-writing, like it's both Ruthie and Annie, but for Mae Marvel, like you are like one person, but not.
Yes.
Do your processes differ for the two, or is it very similar?
It's very similar.
Yeah.
I think we just wanted to make sure that readers like knew what to anticipate because like Mae Marvel is writing contemporary romances.
Right.
And Ruthie Knox and Annie Mare are writing mysteries. So we just wanted to
That separation.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. But like Mae Marvel also is like a combination of like two like Mae is like associated with an important elder in my family and Marvel for her. So it's yeah. There's still kind of that feeling for us.
I liked them both, so we'll just take it. I'm like really excited too because like you're gonna go into a little bit of like spy and suspense with the next Mae Marvel book because it's Mrs. and Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
They have
I love
copies,
this cover
Leah.
so stinking much.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's a really good cover.
But the whole like premise behind it, like I am super excited about because I love suspense. Suspense is my jam. So I'm very excited.
But
Yeah.
this
We-
oh go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, no, it was just fun. We were trying to think about what our second Mae Marvel book would be because, of course, like the first one was already written when we sold it, but then often these days it's two books, like get offered two books, and no one has any idea what the second book may be. And we were trying to think of like, what do we want to see? What would we love to read that's just a story that's fun, but sapphic, that we haven't seen as a sapphic story really, or that we couldn't think of any novels that we'd seen where there was like a sapphic spy versus spy kind of. So it was really like tremendously fun. Also, the characters are just like such dum-dums, but we can get to that.
Well, I read the first two chapters of that one, and all I kept thinking of is True Lies that
Jamie Lee Curtis and Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Oh, they were. That is a good comp because they were such dum-dums as well. Like, absolutely.
She's so like delightfully clueless in all things in that movie. Yeah, I just love it so much.
I think her husband's the most boring person in the world.
Yes. Yeah. I got that vibe from it. And so, but I had to put it down because I'm supposed to be reading other things that come out before that. Like, Anyway, um, but I'm really excited about it, and I hope, and listeners, be prepared. I'm sure I'll be talking about this all summer. Actually, you guys inspired me because as I was, as Kensington
Becky's
approached
been in her
us,
sapphic
I am
era
in my
right
sapphic
now.
era. And as Kensington approached us, I actually made an effort to go looking. I'm like, let's see what kind of sapphic romances, because this idea of women loving other women and friendship and
Mhm.
companionship, it just feels really powerful to me right now and very needed right now. Like, because I don't necessarily know that there's safeness in the world right now, but knowing that there are other women that love and care within your circle just helps, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, so I went looking, and there are so many amazing sapphic titles coming this year.
Yeah.
And I told everybody in our group chat for the podcast host, because we rotate hosts out, and there's 6 of us, and so we all come in and out. And I was like, okay, I just need y'all to know that there's going to be an episode this summer called Sapphic Summer. Like, I'm going to give you all the sapphic recs for summer.
Yes, that's a really good, yeah, there's some really amazing authors writing sapphic right now, and queer romance.
Yeah.
Like it's a very, I just feel very grateful and like humbled and glad to be a part of
It's
writing.
really rich. And it's
Yes.
just, it seems like it's happened really quickly when I think about like what kinds of things people were saying about sapphic romance, like
Mhm.
our first time around,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which was, I mean, it's not that there weren't people writing it and looking for it, because there were,
Yes, there
but
were.
there was definitely like a permission structure in the
Yeah.
conversation to just be like, it's kind of gross though. Like we can all agree it's pretty gross. Like there is just this kind of like thread that was really intense. And it's so nice
Yeah,
to
there
see
was,
that change.
yeah, like the um yeah, and to see kind of homophobia and um lesbophobia and like all of these things like broken down and broken out and like fresh new voices like um interrogating
Yeah.
it, like it's just because there have always been so many wonderful authors writing queer romance, writing sapphic romance. Like, you look at a publisher like Bold Stroke Books, which has been around forever and
Yeah.
has published like some like really amazing and important queer and sapphic fiction forever. And you just think about like all of those authors who wrote all of those stories and all of those books to get to a place where um, Big Five is um, doing all of these like sapphic contracts, and like indie authors are doing like wonderful like
Mhm.
sapphic books and like incredible sapphic series. Like you think about these like powerhouses in it, and it's just like we want more to the table, like as far as because there's still like marginalization
For
within the
sure.
margin, right? So,
For
like
sure.
as far as like a lot of white queer people writing this stuff like us, and
Yeah.
like we need to see like these margins completely blown out so that we're not leaving any stories on the table that we need and readers need. And yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree
Yeah.
more. And it's been really great too, because it was actually, well, she's not a child, but she's 19. But my girl child is queer, and she actively was seeking, queer books and bi representation and all of this. And it really made me like look and seek it out and find it, be an intentional reader, because she wanted these stories so she could see herself. And that's been really great too. And I remember, I think that it was a while ago, it was early 2020. Karina Press approached and asked if I wanted to review a copy of Roan Parrish's Better Than People. And I connected with Roan and we're now friends. And like reading that book, I was like, okay, this doesn't read like what I was reading before. It just feels so much more. And I
Well,
don't know
Ron,
what the difference is. What?
Ron's a smarty
yeah,
pants.
Ron's like
Oh,
She is so smart.
she's
yeah.
so smart. Yeah, and such a good writer. So
Well,
yeah.
and a nice human. Like really, that's first.
Yeah.
Like nice human. And it's funny because she grew up not far from where I live, up in Michigan. And so we were, we've commiserated on, the Midwest upbringing.
Yeah.
Sure.
It has limits. There's limitations.
It's so
There's
great.
shortcomings,
It's so
perhaps.
great.
I say that as an Ohioan. I'm allowed.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, that's me. I'm an Ohioan. And, well,
Yeah.
I was born in Philly, then we moved to Ohio. My dad worked for the rubber companies. So,
Pennsylvania, Ohio.
Ooh, where
I-
in Pennsylvania? Because I'm in
Your dad worked
Pennsylvania.
from the window.
My dad worked for the window people. Ringtown, I think. I
don't know
think
where
it's
that
in
one is.
Western Pennsylvania. It was like the closest airport was Harrisburg. So I think,
I'm on
Central.
the other side. I'm by Pittsburgh.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, so let's talk big name fan,
Chocolate
which
thing.
is so fun because you
Mhm.
have this mystery within this TV show, reunion podcast, and it didn't feel like because I was trying to explain it to somebody and they're like, that sounds like a lot, but I'm like, it's not a lot. Like, go ahead,
Well,
Leah.
and I thought it was so great because there's so many shows right now that like people are doing like watch along podcasts. Like you have the Office Ladies, you have like One Tree Hill, West Wing did one, like Suits is starting one, or they have started one. There's just so many, and so it's like feels like that pop culture like niche, but it doesn't at the same time. Like you took a really great spin on it with the mystery added into it, so it gave it its own twist, and I thought that was really great.
Yeah, it was fun. The whole concept it was kind of an interesting evolution because Annie's agent was paying attention to the rewatch podcasts and thought
Okay.
it would be fun for someone to do a romance with a rewatch podcast.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
you
and I was like, yes, like don't tell anybody else about that because I want to try that. And so then, then we're just sort of brainstorming with that and thinking about the kinds of television shows that inspire those sorts of like rewatch podcasts, which were like if it was a romance, then it had to be like a show where there was a will you or won't they, like
Mhm.
and of course, and especially, but then we were thinking like we definitely want this to be sapphic, and really started thinking about like all of those ships that did not sail for viewers of shows where they really needed that queer relationship, and they would, and this still happens, like people queer coding like all of these like relationships and people and stuff on television. And we're like, it would be so great to really just like sink into that space. Like two people who were on a beloved show that where they were shipped, but the network wouldn't let it happen, but we're happy to benefit from like
The tension.
yes, the tension and the voracious fans. And like how that can create a lot of aftermath. As far as for how they felt about each other, how toxic the relationship can be, like in the studio and with a network, um, and just as an opportunity to write kind of a love letter to fandoms and how much they mean to people, and especially how much they can end up meaning to queer people, as a way to um like write fix it fic, like write fanfic to like so they actually see themselves.
Mhm.
yeah,
I don't know if I
that all
that's-
made sense.
okay.
Yes.
It did make sense.
It did.
And it's,
Okay.
well, go ahead, Leah.
And that was one of my favorite things about the book is like you had like these little snippets of like things that were in the episodes that were part of the show, but then you also had like the fanfic like fix-its, how like the like viewers wanted it to happen. It just was so dynamic having both like sides of that. And I thought it was just such a fun way to like create this relationship, but then like you had the relationship with Bex and Sam outside of like the detectives, Henry and
Marie and
oh,
Cora. Yeah. That
Korak. Sorry, I was blanking on the name. I knew it was a C, but I was like Carter, and I'm like, no, that's not right.
Yeah, writing the Craven's Daughter part of the show, which is their television series, they
Uh-huh.
was really fun. Because, and I think, there's a way, it's like it's definitely like network television. It
Yeah.
has like a little bit of a throwback feel to it, this show that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's fun because I was trying to find before the podcast, there's this memoir by Guy Branum, who's a TV writer, and he's a gay man and a comedian, and he wrote a memoir, and he had this very beautiful passage in it about like how like as a gay man in the Midwest, and he was fat, he was had a kind of like chaotic family. He was a lot of what he learned about how people were supposed to behave was from network television.
Mm-hmm.
But also he was very gay, and he knew that very young. So there was this like process of like watching network television and trying to like figure it all out. Like, who am I? Who are they? How am I supposed to act? But I'm not this. So what am I? This kind of like very dynamic interaction with what he was watching on TV. And I think like a lot of people, a lot of us have some version of that experience with media. And it was really fun to like kind of invent that and then unpack it and take it apart and look at it from different directions.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
I am so fascinated by this because, like, I don't know if it's because it's an age thing or something, but like fanfic and the fandom is not something I ever did.
No, me either.
And it's so interesting to me now to like look at the landscape of authors, but also readers and that expectation of merging fandoms and the fan fixing. And so within that, like when you guys went for your inspiration of your plot line and kind of paying that homage, so were you guys fixing the TV show that this kind of loosely feels like? Because I loved this show because it has that Rosillian Isles like vibe. It was a TNT show, I think in the mid 2000s.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
would say we weren't, although I did read all those books.
Okay.
So I am not unaware of the need to fix that
So much.
particular situation.
And we were sort of like trying to put in like all of the things, because like Killing Eve was like
Mm-hmm.
such a revival of
Yeah.
like those feelings that like people felt about Xena Warrior Princess and Gabriella. Like this stuff like smolders and then catches a fire. And so we're thinking about what are all of those fires. In our the editor that bought Big Name Fan had you know like had feelings about it because of her experience with the 100 and like
Yeah,
needing.
that would.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like
Yeah.
Battlestar Galactica. I mean, there's a
Yes.
lot, right? And you can,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's ways in which like the fandom culture is new, but there are also like a lot of ways in which it's not new. It's just like being expressed in a different
Yeah.
like a different environment, because you can go all the way back, as far as you remember, and there's going to be a lot of other people you can talk to about whatever feelings you were having. I mean, I saw Marianne's agent tweeted a few months ago about the Brat Pack movie, Some Kind of Wonderful, which Mary
Mm.
Stuart Masterson was in as like a very queer coded character who wasn't allowed to be queer. And whatever she said about it, I was like, huh, you didn't see the same movie I saw. I did not have the same feelings about that film as a child as
Yeah.
you did, but we could have such a battle about it now. You know, we could have some great big fat argument. It's just how people talk to media, I think,
Well,
and you.
Well, it's all perception too, though. Like a lot of it's perception. Like you can have 6 people watch the same exact movie, but every single one of them gets a different feeling from it. I mean, it's the same with books. Like you can all read the same book, but it's a different feeling, a different emotion, different like thought process of like why things don't make that face, Rebecca.
it's no different though, because so I live in a house of a lot of neurospicy individuals, and several of them are very dedicated to certain fandoms. And like my boy child is dedicated to the Batman fandom and like can break it down. We talk who's the best Robin and like the origin stories, and it gets deep and it gets thick, and I'm just like, he has a lot of fun gadgets. Like
Like Inspector Gadget.
I mean, think about it, Batman is kind of like a dark Inspector Gadget. Like anyway,
Well, he's not as bumbling.
it's so fascinating to me because like he breaks this all down and I'm just like, okay, wears a suit and his butt looks nice. I mean, I remember when he was 11, he's 21 now. I remember when he was 11, he was in therapy, and he went on this whole thing to his therapist about Batman's suits, and apparently George Clooney's bat suit is the only one that
Oh,
has
it was-
nipples.
Yeah,
It
the
is.
It has
And they were
nipples.
like prominent.
Yeah.
they're
And
not subtle
And
at
I'm like,
all.
you're like 11 and 12. Why are we talking about nipples with our therapists? Like, now I'm starting to worry. Anyway,
JC called them nipples.
he did.
Regular.
My oldest called them nickels for the longest time. He's like, what are these nickels on my body? I'm like, that's a nipple. It's a nickel.
Anyway,
Okay, you keep telling yourself
but I
that.
think it's just interesting. And if we go back, like you said, people are expressing it now through, you know, online forums or rewriting their stories and fixing things, you know, in their versions. But if we think about it, I know that my father, he was a huge Star Wars and Star Trek guy. I know that he rewrote in his head different storylines. You know, would talk about him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think, you know, Star Trek is famously, you know, for a lot of people, their first encounter with, you know, reading queer fanfic.
Mhm.
And so, you know, and you know, I'm somebody who has written fanfic all along, and like can remember when people would like give away like zines and stuff of like fanfic. And so you know, I it was nice to be able to in this book kind of like give that all of the emotional weight that it really has.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because it's really important fanfic, because like not only can it like fix things, it can also be a conduit to which like people can figure out things they didn't know about themselves, because you know maybe they had connections to these characters or this show or a feeling in it, and it's the fan fiction that actually like helps them understand why.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of nice in this book to turn that around and have these two actors, Sam and Bex, be able to see their show, their relationship, their chemistry, like through the eyes of their audience in this brand new way. And to understand something about themselves, like understand things about like what they didn't see or didn't understand. And then, of course, there's the big name fan,
Mhm.
and which like in fandoms is kind of like a famous fan in a fandom, and like either because they have a
Or
platform
notorious.
or
Yeah.
notorious, like either because they have a platform or because you know, they have a club or some like connection to like, you know, whatever, like they're famous in the fandom as a fan. And so like this person, like to be able to like integrate, like put that into like a, you know,
Yeah.
a big name fan
Yeah.
is the person by which they're able to figure out that there's a mystery to solve in their own show.
So, and writing a mystery. So now you have this mystery. Everyone I Kissed was contemporary. There wasn't really a mystery. And then you're going to have spy and suspense later this summer. And Annie on your own, you're kind of writing fantasy. I don't, what would you call multiverse? I don't know where it.
Speculative, I would say.
Okay.
My editor and I at Ace, and she's amazing. Essie Soga is like, she's responsible for so many amazing authors, but we kind of talk about it as like grounded paranormal,
Okay.
like how paranormal could emerge from our real world, and like people would be able to accept it. And so the Cosmic Love and the Multiverse Hair Salon is sort of that, like what if like we became aware of the multiverse and all the different like universes,
Yeah.
and use that as like a multiplier for romance. And so anyway, yeah.
Do you
So that's
I think that's such
approach
a
do you
cool
approach each of these
concept.
different like subgenres differently? Like does your frame of mind go in, or is it just like creatively this is what I'm doing?
Or is it just chaotic chaos?
Organized chaotic chaos.
I think it's like really knowing, investing in, and like being excited about what the genre conventions are, because that is super important. Like it is important to like know, respect, love, internalize what the conventions are of a genre. Like the creative process like looks pretty similar on the outside, but like you have to be very aware if you do step into other genres, like there's convention, just like the happily ever after, like there's conventions to observe. And so I think like we together have uh another mystery coming out in June, and
Yes.
Homemaker. And that I would say is more amateur sleuth, mystery. And like this one was a bit, is kind of cross genre.
It's like half and half.
Yeah. Which I feel like, you know, we were very aware of like how do we engage like both of those audiences. And that was more of a creative challenge in that
Like
way.
finding that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll also say that, like, I think of myself, like, very much as a library reader. Like, not just a reader, but like somebody who grew up reading, like, many more books than my mom was ever going to buy. So, like, a
Mhm.
library reader. And, like, a small town library reader means, like, you're going to read a lot of different stuff. And you're kind of used to, like, a lot of it not being what you wanted. Like, you just take your stack of book home, and like sometimes you find one and you're just like, that
The
was,
hope for the best type of
yeah.
situation.
But you're gonna read all kinds of things. You're gonna learn stuff that you didn't know anything about, and like a lot of them are just like, But like as a library reader, I think it's really useful perspective on being a writer, because like it helps you focus on like, well, what are the things I love about this kind of story?
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
as a library reader, and I found like a mystery, like what were my favorites and what did I love about them? And then like how can we get that feeling into this story? And I think like that doesn't really steer you wrong.
Mhm.
It gets all your conventions in, but also like sometimes there's things that you're like really passionate about that aren't exactly conventions. And then you have to kind of think about like, do I need to pay attention to this convention, or can I do this thing that I want to do that feels more important to me?
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that as a library reader. I love
Mhm.
that. Because on the podcast, we've talked about our journey to the romance, to the moment, to the books that we're reading right now, and where we veered off and then came back because it wasn't, I, like every person in 2010, read, the Hunger Games and the Divergence, but they didn't give me what romance gave me. So I came back. I ended up back. Same with Cozy Mysteries. I read to I think
I
26
still
and
love a
Janet
cozy mystery every once in a while, though.
to
Sometimes
Janet
you just need
Ivanovich.
that.
I like Cozy Mysteries. I think they're fun.
Well, and like when I was in college, I had to read a lot of yuck, like obnoxious stuff, and so you just didn't have time to read the other stuff. So,
Mhm.
Okay, so tell everybody. Well, wait, I wanted to ask one more question about Mae Marvel and Everyone I Kissed. So in that book, it reads as a love letter to Green Bay, and it wasn't until everything was done. Also, you gave, and the characters are just out of my head because it's whatever. Um, she was an insurance actuary. Like, can you think of a more boring job? But then she also kisses people randomly on the internet. Um, could she be more?
that's how she gets her excitement.
Well, she's exploring herself and relationships in the world in a very unique way, and I really liked that. Um, but it wasn't until everything was done that I realized you guys live in that area.
We do.
And I was like, that is kind of fun. So I hope you'll go back and share your love letter more of that area.
No, we will. We write, I mean, basically, if there's not a reason for the book not to be set in Green Bay, then we set it in Green Bay, because there's just not a lot of variety in terms of like the parts of the world that we see. And I mean, there can be, but I think a lot of the times in romance, like we want the location to be like a feature, like an
Hmm.
attraction to the story. So it's exotic, or it's a culture. And like that's great. That's all great. But like this is where we live, and it is also a culture.
Yeah.
And like no one is ever going to come along and ask me what all my thoughts are about it. So here's my chance to
Mhm.
to just like get all the Green Bay stuff.
And Cosmic Love is set in Green Bay.
Oh, okay. That's exciting. That's exciting. I find especially cities like that. So it reminds me, my husband is from Cleveland, and Cleveland is a culture all on
Yes.
its own. Like
Yeah.
it's Ohio, but it is not Ohio.
No, it's Cleveland. I
It's
have some family
Cleveland. Yeah.
over. Yeah.
And the different parts, like the farther you get from downtown, the little less Cleveland it is, but they're still very Cleveland. And so people will be like, "Oh, I'm from Ohio. Where are you from?" And I'll be like, "Oh, I'm from Northwest Ohio over by Toledo." And they're like, "Oh, do you know anyone from Cleveland? Because they're kind of different." And I'm like, "Yeah, I married one of those." But Green Bay is also kind of that, it doesn't necessarily fit
It's a
into,
character unto itself.
it is.
And it's a strange place to be. Like both of us are kind of fish out of water here, but I've been a fish out of water here for 22 years, and I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else. But I'm never going to feel like I'm from here because it's not that kind of city. So it's just like really interesting to observe and like think about what it is to live in like one of these small, big, small, medium, small, Midwestern
Yeah.
cities.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. Okay, so Big Name Fan is out on February the 25th. And I think, are we going to do, because I want to include our listeners that are listening via our podcast feed starting tomorrow. So we will have a giveaway. I will have details in our newsletter. Ruthie and Annie were kind enough to provide a copy for us to give away to one of our listeners. So we'll have details in our newsletter this week for everybody. And I'm very excited about
And
that.
those go out on Sundays now.
Yeah,
if you
newsletter
did
goes
not
out on
know
Sunday.
that we've changed the rotation a little bit.
But if we have to send a special one out, Leah, we can. So we'll get you guys those details, but make sure you check on our newsletter and on our website. And over on our on the shelf show notes at buzzingaboutromance.com is all of your books that are currently either out or coming out. Because this is kind of a big year for you guys. You've got, I just came across the one that's your cozy mystery that's coming out in June. Cosmic Hair comes out in July.
They all come out in June.
Oh, they're all in.
except Fan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's weird. It didn't
everything.
happen. It's not how we wrote them in that order or all at the same time. But yeah, there's a lot of action. There's
In
a lot of
June.
action this
Yeah.
summer. So
Okay.
June's going to be a busy month.
yeah. But this one has its own release month.
Yeah.
February.
Yes. And we are very excited for it. It's and you know, Kensington's like a wonderful publisher in general. They publish so many amazing books, and they're such experts at publishing mystery. Like they just really know those audiences, and everyone has taken such good care of us over there, and like done a lot to see the vision for this book. And so I really think that it's one of those books that is definitely has like an ensemble behind it of like a lot of people who really had a hand in, and which is always nice to give to a reader. Like it's a great artifact with Gil's illustration on the cover, and like there's even stuff about the interior design that like the whole team was excited about to be able to do. And our editor, Alex Sunshine, just like really got it. And so it feels like a TV show where everybody has their part.
That is so cool. And I will tell you, like your team, when they reached out from Kensington to us, like so kind. We're just like, they were just like, we know that you reviewed this book and we know you loved it. We'd like to make sure it's on your radar. And I was like, yes, it's on my radar, but here's what else is on my radar. And they're just like, okay, we would love to. And I'm like, hey, I think I scared Kensington.
I don't think they're flappable. Like
No.
they're great. Yeah.
Well, they don't know what they don't know what they signed up for here.
They opened a door that they maybe shouldn't
It
have.
might be some regrets.
But we're excited.
We're super excited. Okay, so everybody make sure you grab your copy. If you also request it at your library. Request that it go to your library.
Because we should say too, this is a series, the TV detective series.
Okay.
Because we were detectives on TV and now they're real detectives. And so there is like the next book is called Love a Comeback. And so Bex and Sam are back investigating a Hollywood mystery. So just
Ooh. I wondered if you were going to do a series.
I didn't
with
want
the
to
way,
assume, but
well,
I had
that's
hopes.
why I didn't say I assumed. I wondered. Just
Yeah.
the way like it played out.
Yeah, there's the kind of the tagline is like TV detective or real detective, like in Hollywood, it's a distinction without a difference. What difference does it make if you're a detective or you played one on TV?
Yeah, but they
same thing.
they do return as detectives, you know, being especially qualified to investigate Hollywood crimes because they're insiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm excited. Do we know, like, maybe somewhere that the next book will come out?
It's going to be like
They are
almost
working a lot.
exactly a year.
Okay,
Yeah.
almost a year.
So it'll be February of the
2020.
next.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
Hey,
will
listen,
be
we'll stalk you on
impatiently waiting
socials.
for that.
We'll just stalk them on socials. They'll be so tired of us. Also, on our On the Shelf show notes, you guys can find all the places to connect with both Ruthie and Annie, and also Mae Marvel, because I went and added other links because I am that person.
Yay.
It's my show. Leave me alone. Okay, real quick. Patreon update. Swag Pack sponsors for February are author Annie Carlisle and Melanie Moreland. Those will mail out in March. Make sure you are joining us back here Wednesday for our discussion of Intercepted by Alexa Martin and Horrible Football Wives. Anyway, you can find the current list of books for our upcoming Wednesday episodes on our website, and don't forget to follow us on social media for all the updates and join our community of romance enthusiasts. If you love this episode, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform and share it with your friends. Your support helps us bring more exciting content every week. So that's a wrap on this special episode of Buzzing About Romance. A huge thank you to both Ruthie Knox and Annie Mare for joining us and giving us all the behind-the-scenes scoop on Big Name Fan and all the other things. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Delightful. Yes.
If you make sure you can grab your copy of Big Name Fan, you can pre-order it now or grab it on release day, February 28th. And don't forget to check out the other amazing books that they write, both as Mae Marvel and their individual names. And as always, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out, and interacting with us for this episode. What else? Is there anything else I'm missing, Leah?
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
And even so,
We'll be back
it's really
Wednesday.
not important.
We'll be back Wednesday night. Until next time, everybody.
Happy reading, everybody.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.